my mentor told me, you need to back your badge.
I found myself completely lost, completely in the dark, and I needed a way out of that. We teach firefighters how to go into fire, but we don't teach them how to come home and get out of the fire in their mind.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Keep the Peace podcast, a podcast all about real world problems with real world people to keep the peace up in your mind so we can share it with others. Incredibly excited today for my two guests to talk about mental health. We have two firefighters, a firefighter who just got done retiring, had a crazy long career, ups and downs, lefts and rights with being a firefighter, and then also a firefighter who just became a firefighter, relatively new to the firefighting game. And we're going to talk about mental health between these two gentlemen. So please welcome to the podcast today, guys, Nick and James, two Southern California firefighters. Guys, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Trey.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. So guys, talk to me a little bit about you guys. Keep it brief, but talk to me a little bit about what brought you into being a firefighter. Where did the love come from? Maybe introduce yourselves a little bit and how you got in there, and we'll go from there.
Sure, I'm James Owen, and I grew up in Northern California, but spent most of my adult life here in Southern California. And Northern California was a great place in the 70s, unless you were living in my house. And so there was a lot of family trauma and family dysfunction that went on. Mm-hmm. That encouraged me to seek a job where I could provide services for families in need, like our families was in. So firefighting at an early age became something that I wanted to do. And then later on, I would marry up my career of being a sailor, and I would transmute those skills into becoming a firefighter.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
And then I spent 23 years with the Long Beach Fire Department, and I did several other years with the Avalon Harbor Patrol. So I lived on Catalina.
Oh, wow.
And I worked for a ambulance company in Linwood, California, and did 2 years first in ambulance paramedics before I was even a firefighter. So that's kind of encapsulates my career, and we can get into it further, but I ran into some firefighters, some Long Beach firefighters on the way. I'm a retired Long Beach firefighter captain, and I was so inspired by their confidence and who they were and how they carried themselves that it just ignited the fire, and then, the rest is history. I worked a whole career at it.
Oh, that's incredible. And you just recently retired, is that correct?
It'll be 3 years in August, so it's recent, but not too recent. I've gone through the initial shock of leaving the job and saying goodbye to the badge.
Right, absolutely, which we'll talk about and get into here in just a minute. And then, Nick, how about you?
Yeah, so thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Grew up in Southern California. I have a twin sister. Grew up with a loving family, played sports my whole life. Mm-hmm. So when I was around 19 years old, I found a family friend of mine recommended from my mom. She knew a couple, mm-hmm. Nurse and a fireman, and basically found that mentorship from my buddy Brian, and he kind of became like the older brother I never had.
Oh, wow.
And so found my way after putting baseball away. I was playing a little bit of college baseball at the junior college down in LA Mission. Mm-hmm. Found my way to kind of getting mentored by him, and then joined Explorer programs for the Forest Service, joined another Explorer program with the city, and started to kind of dip my toe into the fire service, see what I wanted to do. Then a book was passed down to me called Smoke Jumper, written by Jason A. Ramos, and that had me hooked because it was kind of like a parachuting fire profession, and I was super interested. So I went into the wildland fire route, did a couple years on a hotshot crew, dabbled with some different stuff, but found my way back to the municipal side. And came in with a little bit of experience, but now I'm about 2 years into the job where I'm at now, and just it's all just taking it as it comes,
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So you started in the forest.
Yes, sir.
Kind of fighting fires for the forest, which here in Southern California we seem to have serious problems with on a yearly basis. And then you left the Forest Service and you went into the kind of the city fire service.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Cool. All right, so gentlemen, talk to me here. Talk to me a little bit about the love of wanting to be a firefighter. I mean, I remember me growing up, and I think every kid, especially every male kid, I think, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a firefighter. I think that's a big thing. But man, the stresses and the danger and the incredible courage it takes to run into a burning building, a burning forest, a burning house. I mean, we've all seen it. It is to me just insane and incredibly brave. Talk to me a little bit about why you guys wanted to join the fire service in the first place. Maybe we'll go with the senior here, the retired guy.
Yeah, good call.
Sure. So let me put it in a way that we can all understand, because firefighting is better than sex.
Okay.
Second that.
Yeah.
And the with that upbringing that I talked about with the chaos, it was a way to continue to be in chaos and enjoy the chaos through the adventure of the fire department while doing a noble profession. So it had a lot of things that I liked, and let's face it, when I was growing up, who didn't like a firefighter, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I wanted to be on that team, right?
Yeah, the big red truck coming through
Yeah.
your neighborhood,
Yeah.
like that's a team I want to be a part of.
Yeah, of course. And I was a real dorky kid when I grew up, and so having camaraderie just seemed like something, our brotherhood. Now we'll go find out later on. United we stand, divided we fall. But I was in love with the dream of that, and luckily, as you'll see with me here and Nick, we've got that brotherhood between us.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, you do enough of this job, as you know, James. The brotherhood bond is probably just unbreakable, right?
It is in some ways, and in some ways it isn't, and it can create job stresses, unnecessary job stresses. But
Sure.
really, when you look at it, when you're operating on an emergency and all hands have gone to work, everybody is definitely on the same team, because if you're not doing your job, that breaks the chain, right?
That's
and,
right.
and nothing goes right. So those are the moments when we can really establish that the brotherhood and the fraternal order is in line. Now, when we go back to the station and then off the job, it gets a little bit cloudier there. But when you talk about why I was drawn into it, it just seemed like the excitement, the brotherhood, and then the pay was great. And I love the schedule too.
Sure.
Odd schedule for everybody else, but really great if you wanted to do some traveling.
Right, absolutely. Now, James, tell me, what were some of the thoughts you had coming in to wanting to be a firefighter? I mean, obviously you knew what you're getting yourself into, but what was the mind? How was the mind space? I mean, scary, courageous. You want that brotherhood. Who didn't want to be a firefighter? But I mean, some of that stuff is kind of like, it just seems cool. But you knew what you were getting yourself into. Any battle in the mind on wanting that job?
Certainly. So I was already just pretty much, I was a high school dropout, and selecting the career being a firefighter was going to iron out all the issues in my personality and all the things that I missed growing up in a dysfunctional family. That that the fire department would grind off any imperfections I had, and then also make me a warrior. And that's not something that I learned at home, and I didn't really have mentors that showed me how to truly be a warrior. So looking at the fire service, that avenue was going to be given to me, but it was going to take a lot of hard work, and it was going to take some self-discipline that I didn't necessarily have. So embarking on the fact of being a firefighter inspires you. Just say, hey, I'm gonna go into the arena. I'm gonna try this thing. And the more that people told me I couldn't do it, like everybody I knew was like, no, not you, you can't do it. The more it inspired me. No's inspired me. So it was impossibly hard to get and keep and do. And it saved a 17-year-old high school dropout, right? It gave me vision and mission for to get into my adult life and to learn the lessons I needed to learn.
Wow, that's incredible. So you looked at it as a way of saving yourself, not necessarily some of the crazy, dangerous situations you were going to find yourself into the future. You were looking at it from a past perspective. I want to change. I want to be saved. I'm going to go down this path.
Well, I was riding the wave of teenager ignorance and invincibility at the time, right? So I never thought it would come find me, and my ego told me that I was more brilliant than the danger that would find me, and I would outsmart it. But later on, I would get humbled to that. But at least that in the beginning, the juice was worth the squeeze.
Wow!
To get that type of horsepower into my life and to be around that kind of institution. Going from being basically a wild child, Northern California, into the highly structured environment of urban firefighting, that process was going to render what we see here today, right? And it was inspiring then, and I'm proud of it, and it's still inspiring today too.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that story. Now, Nick, what about you? You've got someone next to you who's got an entire career, and then you've got you who's got an entire career ahead of you, right? What made you want to come into it? I'm sure you have been told, you said you had a mentor. I'm sure he mentored you on some of the dangers and some of the stuff coming. I mean, you spent your first few moments as a firefighter in the forest, where here in Southern California, it just seems to blaze on and on yearly. Where was your mind coming into wanting to be a firefighter, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So, great question. And it's kind of funny. I think my journey was a little different. I didn't grow up wanting to be a firefighter. I really wanted to be a professional baseball player.
Oh wow!
I
Okay.
played, my dad and sister would go to church, and I would go to the church baseball. My mom would drive me to all my tournaments.
Right.
Super supportive of that. But it wasn't until I stopped playing baseball where I really didn't have anything going for me as far as who I thought I was or my identity.
Right.
And I think it's important for a young man is to find something that gives him that self-worth.
100%.
And for me, ever since I can remember, like I always had that little bit of self-esteem, low self-esteem. And I can always look back at my past and see and point to different areas of my life where I overachieved as a result of my low self-esteem. So I would try to go and do hard things or achieve high goals because of my low self-esteem. And so it made me a high achiever
Right.
in a lot of the things that I did, and whether or not that was healthy or not, it got me the desired result.
Right.
So when I was, I brought up my mentor, Brian, he was like a best friend. He's one of my best friends. He married my wife and I,
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Yeah.
I'm like an older brother to his kids, who are now, one of them's in the Marines, the other one's trying to become a pilot.
Oh, wow.
And high achieving. And what brought me to the fire service, what made me want to become a fireman, was watching who he was with his family.
Oh,
Had
wow.
nothing to do with firefighting. It was, this is how a fireman takes care of business. This is how a fireman takes care of his family. This is how a fireman walks. And that's what brought me to James is you can kind of tell there's some benchmarks that, good firemen will have, good men in the community will have. And that was one of the things that drew me close to that is, I may not reach that goal, but I will become a better person as a result of that.
Absolutely.
And so but once, and I got to say this, like if you struggle with failure and rejection, the fire service is not a good job.
Really?
Yeah. I failed about 25 processes before I got in. And that's not that much considering I've talked to other guys who failed double that. And
wow.
The ability to work through failure is one of the best assets you can have going into the fire service, being able to handle intense criticism,
Right.
and constructive criticism, although it feels destructive at times.
Yeah. They want you to get it right. I mean, yeah.
It's not there's lives at stake.
Right.
And, but those were one of the things that brought me to the fire service, was just seeing the way that these individuals carried themselves in the communities.
Oh, that's
and
incredible.
Some of those traits that I wanted for myself.
100%.
Just didn't know how to get there,
So you really looked up to some of these firefighters and this mentor, how they were with their families, how they were in the community, and that really had a toll on the mental health side of it for you, where you're like, hey, I want to be like that.
Yeah, and I really didn't know if I had what it took. It's
Right.
funny because he would work with me on all my interview questions, and he'd go, "Why do you want to become fireman?" Hardest question to answer on an interview panel. And until
Interesting.
we talked about it, he goes, "They're just asking you, what's your story?
Right.
What's your story?"
Right.
And once I figured that out, I didn't even have to do the interview. I was just talking from the heart.
There you go. And that's
leave my heart beating on the table.
Yeah.
Is what he told me to do.
That's incredible.
Right.
Now, Nick, for you, I've learned you just had your first child. You just had a daughter.
I did, yes.
Yeah, not too long ago.
On the 13th.
On the 13th. Congratulations, first
you.
of all. But second of all, being a firefighter and bringing new life with your wife into this life, how was that in your mind? I mean, that's got to be, you got to think about all sorts of ways how you're going to do certain things now. I mean, has that changed you, being kind of a relatively new firefighter, having your first child?
That question did bring up some things that I experienced in the past. You know, I always was drawn to hazardous jobs. I don't know why. I think it's because I had a lot of ADHD growing up, and I just that's what I love about the fire service is it's never the same thing every day. My office changes daily, by the hour, by the minute, and I think that's why Cap enjoys it so much. Is it's such a dynamic job. It's always changing. It's never the same.
Right.
And you know, bringing life in, it was different when I was going out for 14 days, sleeping on the ground, fighting fires up north, and just, you know, bye, babe, I'm off. Oh, we got a call. We're going to Alaska 21 days later, you know, and just go. Yeah. And, you know, I didn't have a lot to lose. And I recall a time where we were in a near miss. And I remember looking at the guys in the back seat who had kids. And I remember seeing their faces. Oh, man. And I remember not seeing them back the next season. Oh. Because they realized that what they had at home was more important than what was going on there. Right. Not to say that they weren't committed to their jobs, they were, but there was an amount of risk that came with it that I don't think you know until you get there. You know, so that is a factor of the job, you know. And I did last night, you know, at 2 a.m, I went and I looked at my life insurance policy, you know, and I looked at all that, and those are things that stick with me constantly, you know. But that's what you do to be prepared. My mentor told me you need to back your badge. Right. And so on the back of my badge, if you look at my badge at work, it has my wife on the back, me and my wife, a picture of it. Remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why I stay in good physical fitness shape. Right. Because I don't want to be a liability. Right. You know, and that's
both for your family or the department or the people you're trying to fight fires for. Right.
Yeah.
God bless you. That's
and
incredible.
I didn't understand that first because guys were so hard on me.
Right.
In my year, and I just was like, I don't understand why they're being so hard on me. And you know, it's because they want to go home to their loved ones. Right. So, you know, the feelings do have to get pushed aside. But it's an uncomfortable process.
Oh, I can only imagine.
On the way there.
Yeah, you got to kind of learn about yourself a little bit, how you feel about it, the guys around you. And I would imagine the guys around you, too, play a big part in this. I mean, they're the ones pushing you down, trying to break you probably, but they're also the ones trying to probably rebuild you and pull you back up, huh?
Yeah, if you've watched any of the military movies or followed any of the military books, that the fire service wants to remove you and put it in its place, of you. Right. And you become a tentacle of it. So there is definitely a crucible to get through. Right. To get to that part. And the fire service definitely is inward looking when it comes to operations. And you're going to have to rely on that rookie. You know, me being a fire captain, having a rookie like day one out of the academy, that's a firefighter. You're going into the fire with them. Right. So you want to make sure that they're not going to kill themselves or anybody else. Right. Until they get that, the spidey senses, if you will, of being a firefighter, where to be and where not to be. I mean, you have the book knowledge, but until you have like the hand knowledge, I say, you know, when your knowledge transmits to your hands, that in between period could be dangerous for a firefighter. So we look out for them, and we're really focused on operations, but not mental health.
Right. And I mean, I remember the real popular movie growing up, Backdraft, right? And then Universal Studios going and feeling the heat on your body, just being a spectator with that kind of stuff. And you guys are going in there, or being a newer firefighter, learning curve could mean your life, or it could mean somebody else's life, right? And you got to be prepared for that. That's incredible.
And that first year of firefighters, we're making sure they're operationally sound. Right. And, you know, part of why we're here today is to talk about, like, there's a tale of that. We should have a second year. You know, we teach firefighters how to go into fire, right? And but we don't teach them how to come home and get out of the fire in their mind.
Interesting.
Right. So that's an area that we're working on. And Nick and I, knowing one another, luckily I'm able to provide that type of, like, mentorship from them, being all the way off the fire department. But, right. There's got to be a way, and we'll talk about this down the road here in this interview, but there's got to be a way to do it better, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
No, that's incredible. Okay, so James, on that topic about being able to come home, right, and fight the fire in your mind, and I love that, by the way, fighting the fire in your mind. That could be a book title if you're following me on that. But over the decades, you know, how has the demand of the job changed for you, especially emotionally?
Sure. So I got hired when I was 28, and like Nick here, it wasn't gifted to me. I took 32 different tests, so I definitely showed some perseverance and some stick to it to refine to fail forward, right? And that's the premise of a lot of what firefighting is about, and also how to take care of your mind. But when I first got to the fire department, we were gifted the fire department by the timing out Vietnam vets. They're like, here's the department we're all leaving. It's in a hole, and we're giving it to you whole. But what happened is we were still able to operate kind of outside of HR, if you will. There was hazing, but not really physical hazing, but there was a lot of like verbal hazing but a lot of gallows humor and inappropriate humor.
Right.
It's how we really dealt with it in the beginning. And we used to be able to have water fights at the station. Well, with the advent of the cell phone camera and being able to document literally anything.
Everything, yeah.
Hammered out any fun that we had at the fire station. And that's where I saw the steep curve where we started seeing more and more incidents related to not handling that stress at work, how we used to do it through fun and through gallows humor. Whatever your feeling is on that, that's how we did it. But it wasn't replaced with anything. So that lets maladaptive coping techniques and time off creates more problems that way. So that's the biggest change that I saw. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example that's a good example. We used to ride around, you know, those headsets that we wear on the fire engines. You guys ever wonder like what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, we're not always talking about like tactics, by the way.
Sure.
So, but some of the funniest things I ever heard in my entire life came over those headsets of guys joking around, making off-color jokes. By the time I left the fire service, which was roughly COVID time and through a lot of stress in the fire department, it was crickets on the rig.
Oh, wow.
Like, and so that change over the years, it didn't get better, it got worse. And something needs to be done about it while we're here today, right? Talking about mental health. Right,
exactly. No, speaking of watching you guys, being a bystander in a car, seeing you guys. So I know the engine is the shorter one that's got all the cool gizmos and gadgets and pressure on it, right? What's the real long fire truck called where someone's driving in the back?
It's called Heaven.
Yeah, it's called Heaven. Yeah,
good answer.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called a truck.
It's just called a truck.
So the truck has a ladder.
Right.
The engine's got the pump. There you go.
Okay, got it. Yeah, but
for firefighters, anywhere on there, any position that you're at, it's heaven. That's and for me, we're working for Long Beach Fire Department, the fireboat. Okay, that also is right up there with the heaven of the truck. But yeah,
right. And I just remember, and I know that I only ever saw this when the fire department showed up for like a kid's birthday or something, and they're having fun, right? But the guy in the back that was steering the back would be
Tillerman.
The Tillerman, he'd be one lane over on the right. But the front of the truck would be to one lane to the left, right? Yeah. Kind of like this bar going down the street. And the kids just loved it. Anyway.
Hey, when you bring that up, like, does somebody seed you with this? Because I tilled one day my entire career. One day.
Really?
Yeah. I came into the fire department as a paramedic.
Okay.
And that you're just labeled to go right to the box. That's what they call the ambulance, is the box.
Right.
So you're going right to the box. And so I just didn't have as much time at the truck house as I had hoped for. And when it came to my turn for tiller training, I got one day and then activated as a paramedic. So,
oh my gosh!
Thank you for letting me air that grievance here.
Right. Yep. Some frustrations that we can get out on this podcast today. Well, cool. So, Nick, going to you now. We've talked about with James what over the decades was kind of how did it emotionally change for him. But for you, kind of relatively being new, what is some of the, so far in your career, what have been some of the most surprising things that maybe you didn't know before that have affected you emotionally?
Well, the first thing that came out was might not been a surprise, but lack of sleep. Sleep deprivation is a hard one.
Really?
You know going into the fire service that you're not going to get it, but I guess for me it was, how am I going to react when I'm not getting it, not getting that sleep? That was one. As far as the stressors on the job, the last agency I worked for, we had something called CISM, Critical Incident Stress Management, and it was a really interesting way to go about it, which was basically if anybody was involved in a really could have been a near miss or a fatality or something along those lines, they would try to bring other agencies, other employees that are in the same function as you to come and help you handle that stress, because they didn't want white coats and doctors coming over and talking to these guys.
No, right.
Because there's not that connection there.
They know nothing about what you're doing.
Yeah. And so the agency I work for today, one of the best things that I heard during a behavioral health talk was the person that knows the most about you, the best person to talk to is the person next to you in that rig.
Right.
Which me and Cap talk about, because there is, the most important thing for me on handling stress today, if I were to boil it down to one thing, would be relationships. The relationships I have, the people I have on my phone, I can call more than a handful of people, and they will pick up and help me through whatever I got going on.
That's awesome.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And I don't know, those are in place before the stress hits.
Right.
Because it's like we talk about, it's easier to do the preventative maintenance.
Right.
Rather than wait till, the car's out of oil.
Right.
And now it's metal on metal. And now, now it's kind of too late.
Yeah.
So I've got the preventative maintenance. When I was 19 years old, I was going through same thing, had some issues growing up. I'll put it,
Teenager issues.
Yeah, right.
Come on, we all been there.
Yeah, life experience.
Right.
But I got to a point where I made a decision. I had to make a decision that I was going to be a different person, and included with that, I started to search out things spiritually to help me along my path.
Right.
And some of those things those practices I still do today.
That's awesome.
And those things have certainly helped. I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't come into the fire service empty-handed when it came to stresses. I already had tools, spiritual tools laid at my feet. All I had to do was pick them up.
Right.
When the stress would come.
Right.
And different agencies I was part of handled it differently. And, but the most important thing I gotta say is relationships. My relationships are probably the most sacred thing I have.
That's incredible.
It's the best thing I have is my relationships with people.
Yeah, and those people you say in your phone, they're not necessarily fellow firefighters. They're people that know you, understand you, know how to help you get through a tough time. Yeah.
All walks of life.
Yeah.
Young and old, like all walks of life.
Right.
Which, if I may mention, is very forward for Nick, being a new guy, to have that kind of connection, to have that type of what we call a picket fence of people that, and especially outside the fire service, is super important. And that is atypical for Southern California firefighters or even internationally. So that type of support structure is not necessarily there for people.
Right.
And if I could just add on top of what he's saying, is that he's got that support structure down. Now we look at the old guy. Now I did too when I was younger, and but then as the career got going, I stepped on some political landmines.
Okay.
This mouth has a chance to do that wherever I'm at. So I'll offer you the sorry right now.
Right.
Or no sorry, but excuse me. But those political landmines, and then trouble at home, right? So that so it starts accumulating through time. And I want to mention, because I think that's really great, and I did too. But you'll hit a part in your career where you're without mental defense, without somebody to call, without you're going to hit the bottom.
Right.
Okay, and this job will force every emotion that you ever had will come out while you're at work.
Right.
Because we're dealing with life or death and human emotions and our own human emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
So I found myself completely lost, completely in the dark, and I needed a way out of that. Like just something like there was no 12 steps, there was no God, there was no prayer at that moment. It was what I would consider the gates of hell.
Right.
And for me, the way I cracked that open outside of those relationships was this relationship with myself. We were talking about like lack of self-worth. Believe it or not, you can be a firefighter and have no self-worth.
Oh, sure.
Believe it or not.
Sure.
So I came up with this mantra that really saved my life. It's called situation screwed, still survivable. So we've all been there where you stack it up. It looks like there's no way out, and,
Right.
and the way out that you do see is very unpalatable and looks like it can't be done. And that's where we get a lot of people going, people in life, but firefighters just a reflection of community, right? Going
Right.
after maladaptive coping techniques, which don't produce ongoing results. And so this mantra is one of those things that I used when I got lost, and I make sure that Nick's got, like, I'm part of his community, right? But if he gets lost, then he's got that mantra also, to see where you're at. Is the situation screwed? Okay, I can accept that, as long as you were living in the back half of the mantra, which is still survivable.
Right.
And that's where we need to see, that's kind of like a gas meter, right? Is my gas meter all the way over and situation screwed, or am I making the efforts go into the still survivable part?
Right.
Right. And that's probably in the heat of battle, literally and figuratively in the heat of battle,
Right.
that little mantra will save you right there.
Absolutely.
Will snap you out of it and put you into action and gets you out of the drama triangle. And if you don't know what the drama triangle is in most stories, there's a villain, a victim, and a rescuer. And you don't want to be any one of those. But what are firefighters? We're professional rescuers, right?
That's right.
So you're always in that drama triangle, and that is a mantra to try to it will snaps you out of it, get into action. So for instance, like if you're pinned in a fire, you can't say, we're always talking about self-rescue, right? So
Right.
we want to say, well, this doesn't look right, but you know what? I'm going to survive this. I'm going to have that mindset of survivability.
Right.
That's going to drive me out of here. And when we turn that into mental health, we turn that into inwardly, we can start finding some answers, and it produces some results.
Right. Now, in your guys' opinion, and there's a decent age gap between the two of you, so obviously I'm interested in both opinions here, but you guys talk about these relationships and these people on your phone and maybe some mentors. Do you guys find that to be rare in the firefighting community, or do you find that to be pretty common? I mean, you guys sound like you've got this great foundation. Now, James, maybe you built it later, or you had it earlier, or some of the political landmines maybe kicked some of those relationships out of the bucket. But, you know, Nick, you seem to have that nice relationship. But, you know, again, do you guys find this to be lacking in firefighters, or do you think it's pretty common?
Let me give a short answer, and I'll let Nick go. It's like the career is a long time. 30
Right.
years I was a first responder, and it's the tide. So when the tide's in, you got people, right?
Right.
I'm married. I got my buddies at this station, that station. Well, then I can get divorced. I can piss people off at work.
Right.
And then I can find myself without that. So how do we create resilience around just self, having enough self-worth and mindset to get ourselves to seek out that community, to seek out that picket fence of people? And then maybe a good time here is, and that's something that I see is lacking in the fire department. So currently under construction is a book and a course and a movement called Camp Pivot, which we can get into later. But appreciate you let me have that little.
Oh,
piece there.
sure. Let's talk about that for a second. But Nick, your thoughts on this picket fence and this relationships and this community you've clearly gone into your career with, lacking with your firefighter buddies, or something they also have?
Yeah. Well, I really can only speak for myself, but, you know, I think what you said, Cap, was really good with the tide coming in, you know, and you change stations, you change shifts, you change jobs. Like, so it's not always forever. You don't always have those contacts. And, you know, you oftentimes working with different members every shift, especially if there's vacancies.
Right.
So you meet these people, you might have never worked with an individual before, and you'll never work with them again.
Right.
And so, you know, on that topic, what I found to be effective is I need to be the friend that I always needed. I need to be that person. And so what I try to do is, you know,
That's incredible.
during this fire, the recent fires, my really good friend, I mean, as an understatement, a really good friend and classmate. You know, we joked in line 5 a.m. every day, just cracking jokes before going into the tower. You know, really close friend of mine. He lost his home, and his wife. They lost their family's home same day.
Oh man!
And all while going through a pretty gnarly injury, so he couldn't even really do much. And and I just remember I just remember thinking about, what it means to have fair weather friends. When you have friends that are there when the ride's good, but when things start going south and they take off, and I never want to be one of those guys.
Right.
Because I always knew what that was like. I can look back in my own life, incidences where I felt like I had fair weather friends. And so one of the things I try to do is I pick up the phone. That phone can get heavy sometimes,
Sure.
but I try to pick up that phone and I call that person. And that kind of segues into this is I think a lot of people are uncomfortable, especially when somebody goes through a loss, a death, some sort of trauma. People, as society, let me know if you guys think different, but I think we do a pretty good job of isolating that person.
Oh, sure.
And I can tell you when my buddy Matt died, when he died, I was close with him and his dad. And Matt, when he died, the first thing I did is I drove over to Craig's house and I stayed with him until he told me to leave, which he never did.
Wow.
But the thing is, that's what I was told to suit up and show up.
Right.
And when someone's going through a crisis, they'll let you know when what you're doing is enough.
Sure.
But when someone's going through a crisis, they're not going to reach out to you and say, "Hey, I'm going through a crisis."
Right.
And so it's one of the things I learned from a thing that me and Cap went through was never again will I look another man in the eyes and not see the pain that he's going through.
Right.
And it's important to be able to see that in those relationships and know when that person needs help, even when they're not asking for it.
Right.
But they are asking everything, and it's just exuding out of them. They're pretty much saying, "Help me,"
Yeah.
but they're not
They're
saying.
They're not saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their emotions and the way they carry themselves. And hey, I'm crying out for help. And gosh, the women of this world are so good at talking with each other, about their problems, and they'll jabber and talk about this and emotionally help each other. And us men we seem to struggle with it, like we're scared or we're afraid or we don't want to be judged or we don't want to, maybe I'll lose my job, or something like that. And it's sad, but we're all humans and we can see it. You may not say a single word to me, but I can see in you your pain, right? And maybe it takes courage to go up to that person and be like, "Hey, bud, I'd rather have you cry on my shoulder than go to your funeral, eh?"
Yeah.
Right? And that's something like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then
Cap's got a lot of experience with that.
Yeah, I don't remember where I heard this, and I always forget these authors of these amazing quotes. I got to work on that in my life. But there was, you want to know who your real friends are? Ask them to go on a road trip to hell with you and back.
Yeah.
And see if they say yes.
Yeah.
Right. And those are your real friends.
And it's not inherently known when you're in the fire service who those people are going to really ride to the gates of hell with you.
Right.
You can get fortunate and find somebody like the two of us have found each other that have really similarly minded on how to treat post-traumatic stress, how to get through a firefighting career, although he's younger, but that off-ramp is not available. Okay. It's not. It's, so when I was in the depths of, post-traumatic stress in the middle of my career, I just failed another, battalion chief's exam. I thought that it was politically slanted why I failed it.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought this up. I buried 7 brothers while I was there with Long Beach Fire Department, and we had just put another brother into the ground, and yet still the department was trying to find fault in stuff I was doing, and I got completely sent out while they did their investigation to see what was going on, and I was in the middle of suffering from post-traumatic stress is really what's happening. So just to typify your point is I was in the middle of suffering from post-traumatic stress as a result of line-of-duty deaths.
Right.
My behavior was in such a way that it was questionable, and I essentially got disciplined for having post-traumatic stress.
Ugh.
And that the people that the members of the fire department that were putting out this discipline, okay, I had to find some radical compassion for them because they were whatever they were looking at, they weren't looking at me as a person, right?
Right.
And one of the things I want to stress is that first responders, living a life of a first responder is like living life on a high APR credit card.
Oh,
Okay,
gosh, yeah.
without being able to pay off the debt, and it's just stacking, and you know it,
Right.
but you can't off ramp that. And so when you find yourself like I did, okay, making a lot of political missteps on the career, and then I painted myself into the own corner. I'm not going to blame anybody, okay, but when I was there, it was suicide, more career suicide to ask for help at that point. So so that embarked me onto a journey of unlocking post-traumatic stress. And essentially why I've written this book and starting this movement with Camp Pivot, because I want our relationship to get amplified on a really large level. And this is part of the initiative, is to have the retirees, guys like me, they're going out through that identity change of the badge leaving, which is just huge.
Oh,
right?
I can only imagine. Yeah.
So being able to turn that, going from being the man to being the only man,
right,
is crashing down around me and other people too. But finding Nick and having more purpose, being able to turn the mental health initiatives that I found and feed this to a firefighter that works for a very busy fire department, is just starting off in his career, and he's malleable to it. Obviously, it's because you hear these spiritual principles. But that is my point: is the fire service lacks what you would call traditional HR medicine, cognitive behavioral therapy, as you framed it, being feminine, but the firefighter culture and firefighters, that is a masculine culture. Mm-hmm. So you're employing a feminine solution to a masculine culture.
Interesting.
And that marries up to a certain degree, but there's a yin and yang and a black and white to everything, right? And so how he and I met was through some men's work that explores how do you get through stresses tribalistically, and how do you pull those arrows out of your ass quickly, right? Because we got to get back in the fight, we got to get back in the hunt. We're men.
You got a job to do at the end of the day.
So I'm writing this book, The Last Patient. It's in the production phase right now, and that's coming up. And that is a roadmap and a guide for first responders. Look, I don't know what your recipe is going to be. It's different for everybody.
That's right.
But I'm going to at least show you mine. What's a successful way to get out of it?
Right.
And I was I was at the gates, right? I was at the gates of hell. I certainly was. My situation was screwed.
Right.
And I wasn't thinking it was survivable, but I held on to that even though I didn't believe it, and it pulled me out of there. And just one more on top of it, at this initiative that I'm putting together, a community called Camp Pivot. And this is something that a Army veteran that I ran into, we came up with the idea. He's pursuing whatever. He's pursuing his version of recovery right now, and maybe come back into the fold. But the thing is that my passion here in life is to provide a warehouse of connectivities, of solutions for first responders, and then vis-a-vis all the way out to the rest of the world. But to be able to provide a warehouse for that digital warehouse that eventually ends up into a brick and mortar that takes more ideas, non-traditional ideas that actually work for us. Right. And give us the tools. We're firefighters, right? Give us the tools. We'll figure out how to do it, but give us the tools to do it. And what is being presented right now is it's not effective. Right. It just isn't. The rates of suicide, injury, post-traumatic stress, and all that is wildly unreported, and it's very derogatory for our population already. I think it's, we're like 3 times is likely to have suicide. This year alone, Trey, I have buried 2 brothers. Oh. Okay, one to confirm suicide, the other one's like question mark, but one for sure. This guy was my captain, my chief, and I used to ride Harleys with him. Mm-hmm. And you can't imagine how destructive that is to a fire department to have a suicide. And then there's other people that are hanging by a thread. Right. That gives them the impetus to do it. Right. So, bravo to you, and bravo to all of us. Congratulations to all of us. Let's pat ourselves on the back for bringing some of this to light, where first responders really need these blankets pulled and given real solutions to work through some of this stuff, because first responders aren't disposable people. Right. We deserve to get restored 100%. At the end of our career and enjoy the rest of our lives, right? Right. And not live it out in addiction and maladaptive coping techniques.
No, totally. Right.
Mic drop.
All right, so guys, that's absolutely incredible. So we talk about fighting the fire in your mind, and we talk about some of the, you call them off-ramps that maybe aren't there. But guys, help me understand something. I just find it so bewildering. Help me understand how you guys emotionally and mentally process this. We just had some pretty large Southern California fires in Los Angeles, right? You guys get called to a home, a building, a forest, a facility, you literally walk up, James, you call the gates of hell, right? You literally walk up to this blazing, burning facility or forest or grasslands in LA. You walk up to this, the fire's blazing. People have lost their homes. They've lost their families. They've lost their dogs and their cats and their personal belongings and the place they rest their head every day. Tell me how you guys process this. You show up, you have to do a job. I would imagine there's step 1, step 2, step 3, analyzing your environment. What do we got to do? You got these people you've probably never seen before, other firefighters around you. Help me understand how you guys just mentally process this experience.
I mean, take a stab at that.
Yeah.
So,
Go for it,
so I always like to start with the answer first.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. Okay, you don't. And when you work for busy fire departments like the both of us have, when you're going on 20 to 30 calls a shift, there's no way to process that.
Right.
So it becomes more of a defensive triage of yourself. And to turn that into what that looks like and how Nick and I discuss it, you have to have an edge when you're a first responder. You have to have a real hard edge because you just don't know what you're going to find. And you get that edge out, and that's your competitive edge, your masculine edge, your warrior edge, and it's out. And you need to use that in that job. You go on all these calls and you leave that edge out. Now the trick is to pull that edge like it's a blade back inside and go home and make that transition, or like a light switch, if you will,
Truly.
back to civilian life.
Being a normal person and a husband and a caretaker or whatever you are, yeah.
Right. And you may have just had 24 hours of death that you're trying to process, and you go home, or I would go home, and my boy's mom would say, here's the baby. I'm gone. I'm tired of that baby. And still there's no processing to occur there. And so that's why more needs to be done.
Right.
And why we will talk about more here, Camp Pivot and that type, and those type of initiatives. But it is a mindset that is in some firefighters, and we don't have it enough to instill. We have to address post-traumatic stress long before we feel it. Right, we have to infect the eggs from the beginning, because that process is lacking, and
right.
we do need people to have an ability to off ramp this stuff. So we'll have to do it in a gross way. We won't be able to do it call by call.
Right.
And there are industry changes that we can also do that I'll suggest, and I'll just give you an example of it here right now. Okay, here's two industry changes that we need to address. One is that we go on all these calls, which if you're going on roughly 100 to 120 shifts, depending upon maybe 130 or 150 shifts, depending upon if you get force hired or not. And year after year, and those 20 calls per shift, you can see that there's just no way to do that. And we'll never really stop. The fire department's open 24/7. The story's still going. We don't stop our personnel for them to debrief. So I propose that the fire service take a look at itself and do a yearly debrief, like a 5-day experiential, clinician informed, but informed by a lot of modalities, like a retreat, and give the operator a chance to off ramp some of that, or at least to start the process of consolidating, processing, and then rendering it back to the subconscious. So very briefly, that post-traumatic stress lives in your frontal cortex, or your RAM, if you will, if you're a little bit older, or computers, okay? And then when you process that information, it goes past the eyes, if you will, to the subconscious, and then it becomes a story. And that's what processing looks like. And after 20 calls, you're unable to do it. So it becomes a lifestyle, and what you do outside of the fire department becomes really key and critical. And with the pressures of your life and family and all that, not all, to get to the obvious things like physical fitness, the self-discipline, the rewards of physical fitness, when you get really impacted in the fire service gets impacted with these times, those things that you do on your own get diminished.
Right.
And so what happens is you start accumulating trauma into a vat inside that you have. It's a big vat. All of us have it. We put the trauma in there, and it works great till the day it doesn't.
Right. There's an entry point and no exit point.
Right.
Right. It's just stacking on top of each other.
And then for me, that meant that I had to leave the job early, and they didn't throw me a parade. I got walked out because of mental health, and that was the right call by the department. And even though they didn't have the solution for it, still it was my solution. That's where we need to spend a lot more of our focus as an industry. And I'll let Nick comment on what he sees.
Yeah. So, Nick, before I do that, James, you're talking about, look, hey, you walk up to this burning facility or this burning field or forest, and you say, no, you don't process it. You kind of act naturally, but then you got to go home and you're being asked to turn it off to be a husband or a brother or whatever you're going to be, right? So that's decades of experience from you, Nick. What about you, man? I mean, you walk up to this situation, and me not being a firefighter at all, I just watch the television and like bust into tears. You know what I mean? How do you approach that?
Yeah, well, one of the things Cap said was something that actually saved my marriage, which I didn't even know my marriage was at stake. But I was in a bad place. It was in a bad way. Coming up on the second year of my marriage, which is too early, in my opinion, to be having any kind of problems. But
sure,
I was that analogy of having the blade out, having that operational edge. I had learned that since all the jobs I had leading up to the point. Everything I did, my training, education, experience, all helped me get into the fire service. But all those things, when I got into the fire service, I learned to have that operational edge. And there's a disconnect. There's a huge disconnect. And, while I'm holding my kid, it's different while I'm holding someone else's kid.
Sure, of course.
And it's not good or bad. It just gives me the ability to do the job and do what needs to be done without having the emotional side get in and create a liability.
Right.
And that's, it's amazing because as firemen, we fall back on our lowest level of training instinctively.
Right.
We don't have to think about it. And it happens when you get put in a situation where we fall back on our lowest level of training, and it starts to happen for us. It starts to unfold. I had an incident, that near miss I had up north in Redding, once we came up with our plan, we were going to burn around the trucks, put fire on the ground. The anxiety and fear and all that fear was gone, and a peace came over because I knew I had a job. I had a job to do.
Right.
And it's kind of like, idle hands is the devil's play shop, devil's workshop, like idle hands can get you in trouble. And back to that point, I love what you said. You don't process it. You kind of just do. Like a lot of that was my experience, is that you just react, because that's what training's for. You can't think when you're in that situation. You're just going to do. And so with the blade being out, I would come home and stress would manifest in different ways.
Sure.
I would be angry, or I would be upset, and I would have that blade out. And the problem is that blade works really well at work, and it gets work done. It gets the impossible done.
Yeah.
Makes the impossible possible.
Right.
Terrible for marriages.
Terrible.
But at home, that blade is too sharp.
You start cutting people you love, and then people start wondering, are you jaded? Are you like, what's going on?
Right.
And I'm starting to have issues with my marriage. I'm starting to have issues with myself, my relationships. And that was when I made a decision that, hey, I need to reach out. I need to try something different.
Right.
So I started going down this path of recovery.
Right.
And that gave me the gift to put the blade back in.
Wow.
Because that blade needs to come out when it needs to come out.
Of course,
but
sure.
Putting the blade back, going to work with a dull blade, then you're a liability to everyone else because you can't get the job done.
Right.
So there is some tact to that.
So you guys would say it's easy to pull the blade out and fight the fire and get the job done because you go instinctively to your training. You know what needs to happen. People are relying on you. You're saying that's so much easier than putting the blade back and going home and being a father or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah. I've heard it said other ways. Like people ask cops, like, oh, like, why did you want to be a cop? It's like, you became a cop because you wanted to use a gun. It's like you became a fireman because you want to put water on the fire.
Right.
You didn't, along the lines of that.
Right. Right. That's incredible. Wow. Well, so we talked a lot about the issues, the mental trauma, the emotion that goes through it. We talked a little bit about maybe some of the things that are lacking when it comes to the human being in this job, this incredibly stressful job that requires a lot of courage. We talked a lot about the issues with it. James, you seem to have some solutions for this that we'd love to hear about. And then, Nick, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about some of those solutions. And is there anything you could add to it, because you've got this whole career in front of you. But James, talk to us a little bit about how you feel like things need to change, and maybe this program you're coming out with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the fire service in any job that is with high stakes, high stress professionals could benefit from the latest and greatest in technology of what actually works for high-end operators. I saw the lack of that out there, and I saw my story very compelling about my journey, because I've seen so many fail at trying to get out of post-traumatic stress, a post-traumatic stress injury. And I like to call it a post-traumatic stress injury, because you can get over an injury. You can't get over a disability. That's lifelong. Right. So I like to, that works better for my vernacular, because this is something that I can, the mindset was, still survivable.
Right.
And that still survivable part is, this book is in the last part of production phases, called The Last Patient. And then I'm working on a movement, and this is a call to arms for all those out there. You can meet me right now at www.captainjamesowen.com. That'll at least link us. And then coming here in the near future is the initiative Camp Pivot. What Camp Pivot is a clearinghouse, a warehouse, a digital space to connect the warrior to resources that actually work, okay? Because everybody's recipe is different, and that will morph into a matchmaking service that retirees can connect to the eggs and be mentors for them, give the retiree purpose, and then we can take all those years of firefighting experience and allow that to be a Rolodex for the new firefighter, and to have the mental health handshake right in the middle of it, right? So they're looking out for one another. There's a term called 2 in and 2 out, right? So when we fight a fire, we'll send two firefighters in, and we'll leave 2 firefighters out. Well, maybe this is 1 in and 1 out, right? So I'm the guy that's out, he's the guy that's in, and that's that. So that is a core of what Camp Pivot wants to do, and it's really trying to seek out a brick and mortar function where we focus on community holistics and basically the mindset of truth and honesty. Where I see people fail in their post-traumatic stress injury is that they lie to themselves and they lie to others to try to get them to co-sign whatever they're thinking. It takes an incredible amount of effort and an incredible amount of honesty. And so Camp Pivot wants to foster that, and then partner with the corporate communities and the communities that care about their firefighters, that care about their first responders, and want them to go to a 5-day debrief where we can focus on yoga, meditation, diet, sleep, some of the core things that are really easy to work on. We want to do that in the beginning, and then start the process of people being able to find their interpretation of some sort of higher power that they can rely upon.
Right. Well, that's incredible, man. I wish you the best of luck in that initiative, and that's absolutely incredible. What you guys are telling me, the stress, the drama, the post-traumatic stress, the depression you can fall into, Nick, to your point, not having that stable of friends that you can go to, it really sounds like that's going to be a positive effort for all firefighters, whether you're new or you've been at it a while, or you're just about to retire, or whatever it may be. And Nick, just your final thoughts on some of the solutions that can be there. And I was really impressed what you said earlier. You have to be your own best friend, right, to kind of work through things and find that extra help. But any final thoughts on what James is saying, or some solutions for firefighters?
Yeah, I think for my final thoughts, as far as solutions go, having those stable friends is irreplaceable.
Right.
Having people that I can call at any time of day is essential. And what happened for Cap and I was pretty organic, So especially being a younger guy on the job is huge.
Right.
Because a lot of times the front office can look pretty far away.
Right.
And it's not necessarily their place to do those things, but to have a friend like Cap, who's he's removed from the process, so he's looking out for my best interests.
Right.
And but I feel that investment in me as a new guy
Right.
And I look at my job as a marathon. And so it does feel like as young guys getting on the job, we're sprinting this thing.
Right.
And so,
slow and steady wins the race.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
at times you do have to sprint the marathon. That's
Right.
kind of what the fire service is,
Right.
is we are sprinting the marathon. And, you know, my experience has always been searching out spiritual solutions to try to fix, you know, I tried to fix that hole in my gut with
Mhm.
everything, you know, under the sun.
Right.
And found myself in a place where I was broken enough to ask for help.
Right.
You know, when I got to that place, you know, somebody put it to me this way. They said, you know, all those broken spots in you is where the light can actually get in.
Right.
And that's
beautiful.
That is how I found solace, and I found fellowship and companionship, whether it was in the fire, in and out of the fire service.
Right.
So, not sure the best way I can put it to tie this up, but, you know, truly was a miracle beating Cap, because I was at a fork in the road,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed help. I didn't know who was going to help me. I just knew I needed help
Right.
in my life and my relationships, my employment, and every aspect of my life. And, you know, have a resource such as James, you know, to share. He really opened up all the scars he had to help, you know, let me know that I can survive those things. You know, situation is screwed, still survivable.
It's incredible.
That's the war cry, that mantra. And I've already had guys that I work with reach out to me,
Right.
you know, asking, hey, you know, for help on their situations, because they know I have that lived experience. And if I were to put it any other way, lived experience is more important. That's really the only thing
Yeah.
that another guy can take from his lived experience, you know. And even
Right.
even the therapist will tell you, you know, the person next to you understands the most about what you're going through.
Right. That's incredible, guys. Well, listen, guys, we're going to wrap up. I can't thank you enough for your stories, for your effort, for your service, the decades, Cap, of you just doing the things that you did for Northern and Southern California, and Nick, for you, man, as well. Thank you so much for your stories. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Cap, I wish you the best of luck in your journey now that you've been a few years retired, trying to put this program together to help other firefighters coming out, or even current firefighters. We wish you the best. Anyway, Keep the Peace can support you. We would love to do that. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your stories and your service. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
And
having us.
Yes.
Really appreciate and grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, guys, this is another Keep the Peace podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. What an incredible story, an incredible, emotion and mental health, and something that, you walk down the street, you see firefighters, you think nothing of it. Sure, it's a job, and now we just got to hear the inside story. We'll see you guys next time.